Let me start by telling you something that might sound simple but carries the weight to transform your entire life. It only takes one habit, not 10, not a complete life overhaul, just one. We often believe that change has to be dramatic to be meaningful, that we have to wake up one day and become a completely different person. But real change doesn't work like that. Real change is quiet, it's consistent. It's built on the back of one decision repeated over and over again. Think about it. Every single one of us is already living the result of our habits. The way you think, the way you respond, the way you show up in your life, none of it is accidental. It's patterned. And if your current habits have the power to shape your life the way it is right now, imagine what happens when you intentionally choose just one habit that serves you instead of sabotage you. One habit can shift your mornings, and when your mornings shift, your mindset shifts. When your mindset shifts, your decisions begin to change. And when your decisions change, your life starts moving in a completely different direction. It's not magic, it's alignment. It's the power of showing up for yourself in one small, meaningful way every single day. The problem is we underestimate the significance of small beginnings. We think, what difference will this one thing make? But what we fail to see is that every powerful transformation has a starting point. Every strong, disciplined, successful person you admire didn't start with perfection. They started with one habit they refused to break, one promise they kept to themselves when it would have been easier not to. And here's where it gets even deeper. That one habit doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you believe you are. Because every time you follow through, you're casting a vote for a new identity. How about for a new identity? You're proving to yourself, I am someone who shows up. I am someone who commits. I am someone who can change. And once your identity begins to shift, everything else follows naturally. You don't need to fix everything today. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to choose your one thing, one habit that aligns with the life you say you want. One habit that moves you, even if it's just a little in the right direction, and then you protect it. You nurture it. You show up for it, even on the days when you don't feel like it. Because that's where the real power is. Not in doing it perfectly, but in doing it consistently, in choosing again and again to become the person you know you're capable of being. And one day you're going to look back and realize that everything changed because you decided to change just one thing. Now let's take that a little further, because once you've chosen that one habit, the next thing you have to understand is this. It's not about doing something big, it's about doing something small over and over again. We've been conditioned to chase big moments, big wins, big breakthroughs. We celebrate the glow up, but we ignore the process that made it possible. And because of that, we start to believe that if what we're doing doesn't feel significant, it must not be working. But that's the trap. That's the lie that keeps people stuck. Because the truth is, transformation doesn't announce itself in the beginning. It whispers. It hides in the small decisions you make when no one is watching. It lives in the moments where you choose discipline over distraction, even when it doesn't feel like it matters. It's waking up 10 minutes earlier. It's choosing to read one page instead of scrolling. It's drinking one more glass of water, writing one sentence, taking one step forward when everything in you wants to stay the same. These actions don't look powerful in isolation, but repeated daily, they become unstoppable. See, we often overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. We want immediate results, instant validation, something that tells us, yes, this is working. But small actions don't give you that right away. They require faith. They require patience. They require you to trust the process before you see the proof. And that's where most people quit, not because they're incapable, but because they're unwilling to stay committed to something that feels invisible. They're waiting for a moment that feels dramatic, when in reality, their breakthrough is being built quietly, one small action at a time. Let me tell you something. Every massive success story you admire was built on days that looked ordinary, days that felt repetitive, days where progress was so small it was almost unnoticeable. But those days added up. Those moments compounded. And over time, what once felt small became something undeniable because small actions, when done consistently, don't stay small. They grow, they expand, they multiply, they start to shift your confidence, your focus, your belief in yourself. And suddenly, the things that once felt hard begin to feel natural. You don't have to leap into a new life overnight. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to prove something. All you have to do is commit to the small. Honor the small, respect the process, even when it feels slow. Because what feels small today is building something big tomorrow. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, you'll wake up and see the results. Not because you made one giant move, but because you made 1,000 small ones. And that's how real change happens, one small action at a time. And this is where we have to have an honest conversation, because as powerful as your one habit is, and as important as those small actions are, none of it works if you only show up when you feel like it. We've been taught to wait for motivation like it's some kind of signal, like it's permission to begin. We tell ourselves, I'll start when I feel ready, I'll be consistent when I feel inspired. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes, it rises and falls with your emotions, your circumstances, your energy. And if you build your life on something that's unstable, your progress will always be inconsistent, because there will be days, real days, when you don't feel like it. Days when you're tired, distracted, discouraged, or overwhelmed. Days when the habit you committed to feels inconvenient, even uncomfortable. And in those moments, motivation will not save you. It won't show up and carry you through. That's where consistency steps in. Consistency is not about how you feel. It's about what you decide. It's about showing up even when the feeling is gone. It's about honoring the commitment you made to yourself, especially on the days when it would be easier to walk away. And let me tell you why this matters so much. Because every time you choose consistency over comfort, you're building trust with yourself. You're proving that your word means something, that you're not just someone who talks about change, but someone who lives it. You don't build confidence by waiting until you feel confident. You build confidence by doing the thing again and again until it becomes a part of you. And that only happens through consistency. Motivation might get you started, but consistency is what keeps you going. Motivation might show up at the beginning of the journey, but consistency is what carries you to the finish line. It's what turns effort into habit and habit into lifestyle. And here's something we don't talk about enough. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you'll never miss a day or make a mistake. It means you don't stay down when you do. It means you return, you reset, you recommit. Because the goal isn't to be flawless. The goal is to be faithful to your growth, to your process, to the P. Rassen your becoming. There is power in showing up when nobody is applauding. There is strength in doing the work when it feels repetitive and unnoticed. That's where discipline is formed. That's where your character is shaped. That's where the real transformation happens. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, the perfect conditions. They may never come. Decide that you're going to show up anyway. Decide that your commitment is stronger than your excuses. Decide that who you are becoming matters more than how you feel in the moment. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how motivated you were. It's about how consistent you chose to be. And consistency will take you places motivation never could. And as you keep showing up through the small actions, through the days when motivation fades and consistency carries you, you'll begin to notice something deeper shifting. It's not just your routine changing. It's not just your results improving. It's you. The way you see yourself starts to evolve, because every habit you practice is telling a story about who you are. For a long time, many of us have been living inside stories we didn't even realize we were repeating. I'm not disciplined. I can't stay consistent. I always quit. Those thoughts don't just live in your mind, they shape your behavior. They become the lens through which you see every attempt at growth. But when you choose one habit and commit to it, even in small ways, you interrupt that narrative. You begin to rewrite it, not with words, but with evidence. Every time you follow through, even when it's inconvenient, you send yourself a message. I am someone who does what I said I would do. And that matters more than you think, because identity isn't built in a single moment. It's built in patterns. It's built in proof. You don't wake up one day and magically become confident, disciplined, or focused. You become that person by collecting small wins that support that identity. One action at a time, one kept promise at a time, one kept promise at a time. And here's the beautiful part. Once your identity starts to shift, your habits stop feeling like a struggle because you're no longer forcing yourself to do something that doesn't align with who you believe you are. You're simply acting in alignment with the person you've become. When you see yourself as someone who takes care of their mind, you don't have to fight to protect your peace. You naturally do it. When you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you don't debate whether or not to show up, you just show up. The internal resistance begins to fade because your identity is no longer working against your actions, it's supporting them. This is why focusing only on outcomes can be so frustrating. If all you're chasing is a result, you always feel like you're falling short until you reach it. But when you focus on becoming, every step forward counts. Every small action reinforces the person you're stepping into. So instead of asking yourself, what do I need to achieve? Start asking, who do I need to achieve? Because the results you want are a reflection of the identity you hold. And let me remind you, this is within your control. You don't have to wait for permission to become a new version of yourself. You don't have to wait for validation or approval. You build it day by day through what you choose to do. Even on the days when it feels like nothing is changing, something is, your mindset is shifting, your self-trust is growing. Your identity is being rewritten in real time, and one day you'll look at your life and realize that the biggest transformation wasn't just what you achieved, it was who you became in the process. Because when you change your identity, you don't just change your habits, you change your entire life. And if you stay with it, if you keep showing up, keep choosing the small, keep honoring your commitment, even when it's quiet, you're going to step into a truth that most people don't recognize until it's too late. Nothing you're doing is being wasted. Every small effort is adding up even when you can't see it yet, because life operates on something powerful, something almost invisible in the beginning. The compound effect. At first, it doesn't look like much. You show up one day, then another, then another, then another. You keep repeating your habit, but the results don't seem to match your effort. It can feel frustrating, even discouraging. You start to question yourself. Is this even working? Does this really matter? And in that moment, it's tempting to quit because what you're doing feels too small to make a difference. But what you don't see is what's happening beneath the surface. Every time you show up, you're stacking evidence. You're strengthening your discipline. You're sharpening your focus. You're reinforcing your identity. And those changes don't always show up immediately on the outside, but they are building something powerful on the inside. It's like planting a seed. You don't plant it today and expect a tree tomorrow. There's a season where nothing seems to be happening, no visible growth, no proof. But under the soil, something is taking root. Something is expanding in ways you can't measure yet. And then one day it breaks through. That's how habits work. That's how transformation works. It's not linear. It doesn't reward you instantly. It compounds, it builds slowly, quietly, steadily, until one day the results catch up to the effort you've been putting in all along. The challenge is most people quit in the invisible stage. They stop before the breakthrough. They walk away right before the momentum begins to multiply. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't understand how growth actually works. You have to trust that what you're doing today is shaping your tomorrow, even if today doesn't look any different. Because the compound effect doesn't just multiply your actions, it multiplies your outcomes. A small habit done consistently doesn't stay small, It grows, it expands, it creates opportunities, builds confidence, and shifts your entire trajectory over time. And suddenly, the things that once felt hard become second nature. The effort that once felt heavy becomes part of your rhythm. The results that once felt distant start showing up in ways you didn't expect. But it all traces back to those moments when you chose to continue, even when you couldn't see the progress. So don't get discouraged by slow beginnings. Don't let the lack of immediate results convince you that nothing is happening. Stay in it, stay committed, stay consistent, because one day all those small actions, all that quiet discipline, all those unseen efforts, they're going to come together in a way that changes everything. And when that moment comes, it won't feel like luck. It will feel like the result of every single time you chose not to give up. Because what you do daily doesn't just add up, it multiplies. And after everything we've talked about, the power of one habit, the impact of small actions, the necessity of consistency, the shift in identity, and the way it all compounds over time, there's only one thing left to do. Start. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when life calms down or when you feel more prepared, because if you're waiting for the perfect moment, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life. There will always be something unfinished, something uncertain, something that makes you feel like now isn't the right time. But growth doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It responds to decision. You don't need clarity for the whole journey. You just need enough courage to take the first step. And that step doesn't have to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be. Because the smaller it is, the more likely you are to stay consistent with it. We've already established that transformation isn't about doing everything at once. It's about choosing one thing and committing to it. So make it simple, make it realistic, make it something you can actually follow through on, even on your hardest days. Maybe it's 5 minutes of focus, maybe it's one page, one prayer, one walk, one intentional decision that moves you forward. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It just has to be honest. It just has to be yours. Because the goal here isn't to prove anything to the world. It's to build something within yourself. It's to build something within yourself. And let me say this, because it matters. You don't have to feel confident to begin. You don't have to be free from doubt. You don't have to know if it's going to work. You just have to be willing to try, willing to show up. Willing to take responsibility for your own growth, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Because every day you delay, you are reinforcing the habit of waiting, and waiting has a way of turning into weeks, months, even years of staying in the same place, holding the same desires, but never moving toward them. But the moment you decide to start, even in the smallest way, you break that cycle. You shift from thinking to doing, from hoping to becoming, and don't overcomplicate it. You don't need a perfect plan or a perfect routine. You just need a starting point. You can adjust as you go. You can grow as you learn, but none of that happens until you begin. This is your moment. Not because everything is aligned, but because you are aware. You see what needs to change. You feel the pull towards something more, and that awareness is your invitation. So accept it. Choose your one habit, commit to it in a way that is small enough to sustain, but meaningful enough to matter. Protect it. Show up for it. Let it grow with you, because the life you're waiting for isn't built in a single breakthrough. It's built in the decision you make right now. And the most powerful thing you can do in this moment is begin.